The complete word Vav means hook. The single letter, also called Vav, represents the word and. In both, the concept of connection is obvious. The word and connects words and sentences, thoughts and ideas, chapters and books. And a hook connects objects. Now, the first appearance of a letter or word in the Bible forms, as it were, its headquarters. Its essence is seen more starkly there than in later appearances, when it has gathered all kinds of nuances. And so, where does the Vav first appear? This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And what magnificent words they are. And right there is the very first appearance of the letter Vav in the biblical text, in the very first verse. Can you see it there? There's our letter Vav, and there it is in the text. The single letter Vav is seen to connect all of the heavens and all of the earth. As we can see straight away, we're at the very source of the Vav, where it first springs out of the spiritual dimension into ours, and we see that it has the unique power to grip, to glue together. You know, if you've ever held a koala bear, you'll notice that its grip becomes tighter and tighter until you get quite concerned. It's just not going to let you go, not for anything. I suppose you have to have that ability if you're going to sleep up trees. But that's like the Vav. Nothing is going to shake it loose. If it's commissioned to hold together the heavens and the earth, then it will continue to do so until the Master says otherwise. And in this way, the Vav speaks to us of Jesus, who holds all things together by his word, all things in the heavens and all things on earth. That's Colossians chapter 1, verse 17. Amen. Now, by the way, Jewish scholars have suggested an alternative reading for this, the beginning of this verse. And it goes something like this. In the beginning, God created the Aleph Tav. Now, Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and Tav is the final letter. So that's like saying in our language A to Z, the entire alphabet of 22 letters. In the beginning, God created the entire 22 letters, and then he used those letters as building blocks of creation, a little bit like, chemical equations. He put them together in an almost infinite variety of combinations. And in that way, he proceeded to create all things that followed. Now, I found that really interesting. It's got nothing to do with the Vav, but I just couldn't help mentioning it. Now, let's get back to the Vav. I mentioned in the introductory video that the books of Exodus, Leviticus and Numbers, they all begin with the Vav, the word and, indicating that what follows is directly linked with what has gone before. In a sense, everything, that God does and everything that happens in history is interlinked. Nothing occurs in isolation, and nothing expresses this better than this tiny letter, Vav. And let me show you where it appears in the text. Here we are with the book of Genesis. Let's go to Exodus, and there we've got Va'ele Shemot B'nai Israel, and these are the names of the children of Israel. And there is the Vav. Can you see it there? There's the Vav, which connects the book of Exodus with the book of Genesis. It follows on a continuous story. And then we go to the book of Leviticus. I have to move the book over here. Hope you can see this. Vayikra el Moshe. And the Lord called to Moses. And there is the Vav right there. See it at the beginning. Hope you can see that. So that ties the book of Leviticus up with the book of Exodus. It's a continuous story. Book of Numbers. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe. And the Lord spoke or said to Moses. And there's the Vav right there at the beginning, linking the book of Numbers up with Leviticus and so on. So It's a continuous story, and it's a powerful way of impressing on us that from Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 right through to the end of Numbers, we are reading the record of a continuous series of interlocked events. It's so important to understand this. It's like a string of binary code. In fact, that's exactly how the Jews believed that Moses received the first 4 books of the Torah. It was a string of letters with no spaces between them. If you like, just one long continuous word. And this would make sense, being as we refer to it as the Word of God, not the words of God. Now, as for the final book of the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy, it has always been considered unique in that it is largely a repetition of much of what has gone before. And most significantly, Moses uses the term, God spoke to me, instead of the usual phrase, God spoke to Moses. Hence, this book kind of stands on its own in a sense. It's still part of the Torah, of course, but it stands on its own. Therefore, it doesn't begin with the Vav, rather with the Aleph there. So you see that Ele Hadavarim, these are the words, but there's no Vav there. Now here's another interesting thing. This Hebrew characteristic of employing the Vav, the word and, to stress continuity, it's been carried through into the New Testament. We see it in the book which describes the closing years of history, the book which is most powerfully linked with the opening books of the Bible. I'm talking about the book of Revelation. The end, you see, revisits the beginning. This is a fact, an important fact. At the beginning, we were taught that history that began with let there be is an interconnected series of events, all known in advance by God and fulfilling the mystery of his purpose. Now in Revelation chapter 4, the narrative turns to a description of the things that shall be hereafter. Every single chapter through to the end commences with the word and. Of course, here it's the Greek equivalent, kai. Of a total of 333 verses within those chapters, 256 of them begin with the word and. The implication is clear, and it's so important that we understand it. The events of the tribulation period have an intense interconnectedness. Once it begins, there is no stopping it. Like birth pangs, one thing will follow upon another with the inevitability of a chain reaction. In fact, birth pangs was the term used by the Jews to describe the time of unprecedented trouble, which was to close this era and usher in the Messianic era. Jesus used the same term during his discourse on the events of the end of the age. All these, he said, are the beginnings of birth pangs or sorrows. Matthew chapter 24, verse 8. The birth pangs began with the 2 world wars and the establishment of Israel. Now, the point I've been seeking to make is that the oft-repeated and of Revelation carries the exact same message as Jesus' words to his disciples. The end-time events will be a chain reaction, unstoppable, continuous, and swift. Like so many aspects of God's actions which man misunderstands as fierce or merciless, heaven forbid, the very swiftness of the final scenes of this world are actually evidences of God's mercy. For his anger endureth but for a moment. In his favour is life. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Psalm 30, verse 5. It's long past time to get ready.